Welcome to Lattes and Laundry, a podcast created to keep you company as you fold the clothes or for when you take your well-deserved coffee break. Life at home, while never dull, can sometimes be a little lonesome. My hope is that this podcast makes you feel like you have a friend with you as you go about your day. I'm so glad that you're here. Hello friends, welcome back to Lattes and Laundry. I am your host, Emily. Thank you for joining me today. It has been a long time since I've made an episode. I started out April and got really behind, and I had every intention of posting a new episode, and then it got to be, halfway through April, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to take April off, and I was going to continue in May. But I've actually been sick twice in the last 30 days where I have lost my voice or my voice has gotten really strained. So things have just gotten way far behind. We were very busy in April. Like I said, I've been sick a couple of times. We just had a lot going on in April. I also got the chance to go see my friend in Tennessee in April. So lots of good things, a little bit of sickness, just a lot of general busyness. So that is why I've been behind on both podcast episodes and YouTube videos. And it's kind of funny because me not being on top of things is a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. I wanted to talk about habits and routines and how it's just hard to develop. And specifically, I'm just going to talk, we're going to talk about habits today and, developing routines and how that pertains to us, whether we are stay-at-home moms and homemakers or whether we are, homemakers as well as working outside the home. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And the reason that me being behind kind of ties into that is because I really had intentions to, be really diligent with my YouTube channel and really diligent with this podcast. And because I completely fell off on posting, I just feel like failure about it. And there is this part that I have to give myself grace because my home and my children and my husband, that's where my top priorities are. And so there's not always a lot of time to spend prioritizing to my extracurriculars like YouTube and the podcast, because they're my priority. And, there are times where it requires a little bit more of my time with my children, or, my home requires a little bit more of my attention. So there's that part where I can give myself grace. But then there's also that part where I am just not naturally an organized person. And, I know there's all kinds of personality tests and things that you can take to tell you about your personality. But I know myself. As far as my personality goes, I am not a naturally organized person. And it's funny because I am not a laid back person by any means. I'm a very anxious person. I worry a lot. I am not a laid back personality. But when it comes to things like being organized and habits, that is so not naturally the way that I am. And it really frustrates me because I really want that to come easy to me, for me to be super organized and be on top of everything and, just have this perfect routine. And I'm not saying that I couldn't get there, but I'm saying naturally that is not my natural way at all. My natural way is to just wing everything and kind of fly by the seat of my britches, as my mom says. So that's my natural tendency. But what that leads to is me feeling really overwhelmed, me feeling like everything is on top of me and I'm not on top of anything, and things just spin out of control. Because in life, whether it is being a mom or working a job outside the home or owning a business, you have to maintain a certain amount of control. Even if that's not the way you naturally are, you have to maintain a certain amount of control or things are going to spin completely out of control. And I'm going to be real honest with you. Lately, I feel like things are spinning a little out of control. In the middle of all the busyness and just things that have been going on, I just have really let go of pretty much any semblance of routine or organization. My house cleaning schedule has completely gotten thrown out the door, and I've just really stopped maintaining that sense of control, all but like one area of my life. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But it's like things have gotten way off the track. And the thing is, like, I'm the one who has to change it. I'm the person who is in charge of making sure that this train stays on the track, and I've been letting it go. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about was the feeling of failure, because that's how I feel. When I let things get out of control, when my housework starts piling up because I've not been making things a priority and I've not been, scheduling my day and planning out like when I'm going to do certain things and just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, when things start getting like that, then it gets very overwhelming. And then I end up not wanting to do any of it. And I end up just feeling like, well, I'm just a failure. I'm just bad at this. And I don't know what to do about it. Like, I'm just not a good mom. I'm not a good homemaker. I'm failing. And when the feelings of failure come in, it's natural. You're naturally going to feel like you failed. But the thing is, yes, you have to give yourself grace. You can't just let it all go. But yes, you have to give yourself grace, especially depending on what season of life you're in. Also, everybody messes up. And so you have to give yourself a little bit of grace there. You're not perfect. You're a human being and you're going to mess up. But also, if you just sit in that state of feeling like failure, you're not going to do better. You have to just kind of pick yourself up, dust yourself off and say, okay, yes, I've not done the greatest at this. I've come off the track on this. I've not done my best work, but it's up to me to change it. So I'm going to pick myself up out of this, failure pity party that I'm having and just try to do better. Because the thing is, you may feel like a failure, but all is not lost. There's that great quote from Anna Green Gables where Miss Stacy says, tomorrow is always fresh with no mistakes in it yet. It's like you can still do better tomorrow. If you feel like you failed today, put the day to bed and then just do better tomorrow. Feeling like you failed doesn't mean that you're a failure, if that makes any sense. Like, just because you may have not done a good job today and maybe you did, fail today, it doesn't make you overall a failure. You can start over the next day and do better. But if you sit in that mindset of, oh, I'm a failure, oh, I can't do anything right, you're just going to blow up your balloons and have a pity party and nothing's ever going to get fixed. And I say all this as somebody who has been there and who has been there recently and who is still there. And, I don't speak on any of this from an expert standpoint. I'm basically just sharing with you my experience and, some thoughts that I've had on this subject, because I've definitely been there a lot. And I feel like that a lot even right now, because things have gotten so far out of control as far as like my routines and schedules and all of that. And I have felt like I'm just not good at this. I'm just a failure. But we have to just pick ourselves up and determine that we're going to do better. And the thing about habits, there's debate. I've heard people say that it takes 30 days to form a habit. And I don't know if that's 100% accurate or not, because you can't do something if you do something for 30 days, it's going to get easier to do it and it's going to become more of like a second nature thing. You're not going to think, you're going to think, okay, I've got to do this today because this is what I've done for 30 days. But also you can't do it for 30 days and then expect that you're not going to want to stop. So I don't know. I think a habit has to be something that you push yourself to continually do. But I do think that it gets easier after 30 days. And I started working out in April, and I've never had a consistent workout routine. I don't enjoy exercise. And so it's not something that I've done it consistently here and there and then stopped. But my husband is very into the gym. And so he's kind of helped me with learning how to work out with weights and stuff. But I think that it's really important for women, especially as you get older, that you do some weighted workouts and stuff. And I decided that I wanted to get really consistent with it. And my husband told me in 3 weeks, you'll feel better. In 6 weeks, you'll be able to see a difference. And then once you see a difference, you want to you want to keep going, because that's how it's been for him. And so I thought, well, I could stick with it for 3 weeks. And if I, feel better, then that'll motivate me to get to 6 weeks. And if I do it for 6 weeks and I can tell a difference, then that will really motivate me to not stop. And so I have been able to consistently work out for over 30 days now. I'm able to tell a visible difference. I'm able to tell a difference in how I feel, and it's really motivated me to keep going. And so that, just being able to establish that habit has really motivated me to say to myself, well, if I can establish that habit, something that I never thought that I would do. I never thought I'd be able to work out consistently enough to where I actually could see the difference when I looked in the mirror. If I could make that a habit, and if I could do that consistently, then I should be able to do this in other aspects of my life. And that's coming from somebody who is just not naturally very regimented. But if I can, force myself to become regimented in that area, then what's to stop me from becoming regimented in other areas of my life? And so that's really been a big motivating factor for me in trying to get the rest of, my life and my routine and my home in an organized fashion. Even though doing it for over 30 days, it's gotten a little bit easier, but that doesn't mean necessarily that I want to do it. It's more that I love the results from it, and I feel like, okay, I've made all this progress and I don't want to stop, because then I'm going to lose all the progress that I've made. So I don't know that doing something for 30 days is automatically going to make this irreversible habit. I don't think that's the case. But I do think that if you do something for 30 days, it almost rewires your brain to think that, okay, I'm going to do this week. This has become naturally part of my week. I'm going to do, this day, that day, I've got it all laid out and I'm going to do it. It's just become this thing, like it kind of changes your thought process on it. But I wanted to also read you a scripture verse, and I'm sure most of you know this scripture verse. It's 1 Corinthians 14:40, and it says, "Let all things be done decently and in order." And I think that's a good example of that for a lot of things in life, but also like the Lord is even saying, like, things need to be done in order. Things need to be, organized. You need to have control of yourself and control of your job and that kind of thing. And so I think that's something that is really important to remember when you're thinking about, getting routines and habits and building those things into your life. I don't think that, like, the Lord wants the best for us. He wants us to live a good life, a happy life. And we don't, at least for me, I don't feel happy when everything is out of control and unorganized. And the Lord expects us to do the best with the tasks that we're given. So for me, that's being a mom, that's being a homemaker, that's being a wife. And so I need to be striving to do the best job that I can do. And like I said, that's not to say like things are going to look different for you depending on what season of life you're in. If you are in a season of life where you have a newborn and you've got toddlers running around, like, you still have to try to do your best, because we always have to try to do our best. But sometimes your best is going to look different than somebody who has teenagers, or like me, I have 2 toddlers. I don't have a baby right now. So my best is going to look different than somebody's best who has a brand new baby and toddlers, or who has their first baby and their newborn, or whatever your situation, our best is going to look different. And so you have to allow yourself the grace that you need for those periods. Like, when I'm in my first trimester of pregnancy with both of my kids, was like, I could not bear cooking. I just could not stand the smell. I could not handle it. I had food aversions to just about everything. Like, the best that I could do was to, like, when I was pregnant with my daughter, the best that I could do was to take care of my son and make sure that he was fed and he was clean and he was taken care of, and do what I could around the house. But like the meals, that was something that was not happening. And we did a lot of takeout and a lot of fast food during my first trimester, because that was the best that I could do. Like, you have to allow yourself grace for certain circumstances and certain times and seasons, because, you're not going to be able, sometimes there are things you're just not able to do. So you just have to do the best that you can in your circumstance and give yourself grace. Like, if you're in your first trimester and you're throwing up all the time and you can't cook, don't let yourself feel like a failure because you're not cooking and because you're getting takeout. Like, don't make yourself feel like a failure over that. You do the best that you can in the circumstance that you're in. But I do think that we are called to do the best that we can. And I do think there is grace there for what we cannot do in the certain circumstances that we're in. And like in my life and my season right now, I need to do the best that I can do to stay on top of the housework, but there are things with toddlers that messes happen. Like right now there is peanut butter smeared on my TV screen and I need to get it off. Yes. But I'm saying like messes happen. Kids spill stuff. There's usually crumbs on my floor. I just spent 30 minutes peeling stickers up off the floor. Like, I'm not a failure because my kids make messes. I hope that you understand what I'm saying. Like, there's grace to be given in every season of life, and you can still do the best that you can with what you've got. So I hope that makes sense. I'm not trying to be one of these really hard people that's like, you need to just push through whatever you're going through and do your job. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, that there is grace for circumstances, and we just have to do the best that we can with what we've got. I did also want to share with you some stuff from the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. My dad, growing up, he was always really big on teaching us things like leadership and character, and my parents were very open to us doing entrepreneurial things, so they gave us a lot of resources for being young entrepreneurs. When I was a teenager, I read the book by the same author, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. If you have teenagers, I do highly recommend that book. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, both of these are authored by Sean Covey. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is a self-help and business book. And I don't actually know that I've ever read that one. I may have. I'm not 100% certain. I know that my dad did. I know I read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, and the principles are very similar, but it's put more into like a young person's perspective. But I wrote down what the 7 habits are, and I do believe that these apply to anybody. They can be applied to you if you own your own business, if you work outside the home, if you do both homemaking and work outside the home, or if you are a homemaker and in the home full time. I think they can be applied to anybody. The first one is be proactive, focus and act on what you can control versus what you can't. And I think this is really triggering something in my mind of as far as like things that I can control. And one of the things that I've really not done a great job of lately is really structuring our days and having a good routine for our days. I don't exactly know where we fell off the wagon at, but somewhere along the way, our days have completely lost their structure. And when our days lose our structure, it's just not good for anybody. It's not good for me. It's not good for my mindset because I fall into the whole, oh, I'm a failure, I can't get anything done, because I get so overwhelmed because there is no structure to our days where I have designated times to get back on top of things. And then it's not good for the kids because they don't have that structure. Kids really thrive on structure, especially young children, and they're not getting the structure that they need because mom doesn't have it all together. And so that really spoke to me because I realized I need to be more proactive and focus on these things that I can control because I'm the one who can ultimately control it right now. My kids are 3 and 4. We're home all the time. We don't really go out that much aside from like the grocery store, occasionally the library. Like we're home most of the time. And just because we're home all the time doesn't mean that everything gets to just, fly by night. Like it doesn't, we need the structure. They need it, I need it, and I need to be more focused on controlling that and get things back in check. The second one is begin with the end in mind. Define clear measures of success and a plan to achieve them. So rather self-explanatory, but begin with the end in mind. And I think that can even go deeper with, your children and like how you are raising them now, the things that you are teaching them now, you're beginning with their future and their adult lives in mind. The things that you invest into them now, teaching them about Jesus, teaching them about being kind, being good people, having good character, all of those things that you're investing into them now, that's starting with thinking of them down the road as adults. You want them to be good adults. You want them to be kind. You want them to care about others, but you also want them to be smart, and you want them to be wise and have discernment. All of that stuff. Like that, to me, that second one goes even deeper, especially with parenthood. It's like what you're investing in them now is you looking towards their future and wanting them to be equipped for the future. The third thing is put first things first. Prioritize and achieve your most important goals first instead of constantly reacting to urgencies. And this is something that I so struggle with this. I so struggle with the daily, not the big things, not the big priorities, but like in the everyday, the things that I need to prioritize. Like my priorities are all over the place during the day. My mind goes from, I need to put a load of laundry, and I need to do these dishes, but I need to take this one to potty, and I need to clean this one's room, and I need to take them outside, and I need to read them a book, and my mind just goes all over the place. And that's something that I really need to do better at, is putting the first things first, figuring out what our top goals are for the day, and then working the way down to achieve everything that I need to get done instead of just spastically going from one thing to the next, which is what I tend to do. Number 4 is think win-win, collaborate more effectively by building high-trust relationships. And I think this one he's very specifically talking about business, but I think, again, that can apply to the little things day to day to think in a win-win scenario. Number 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And to me, what this is really saying is think outside yourself. Think outside of the way you feel. And, that's another thing that I need to think about more, is instead of focusing on how I feel, thinking about how my children feel, or how my husband feels, or how people outside of me feel. And I do think that when you start focusing on others more versus how you feel, it really changes your mindset, and it really helps. Number 6 is synergize, develop innovative solutions that leverage differences and satisfy all key stakeholders. So again, that's kind of talking about business, but to me, what that's saying is develop innovative ways to run your household, innovative ways to get back on top of things, put systems in order, put organization systems in order. Figure it out, woman. That's what that's saying to me. Number 7 is sharpen the saw, increase energy and motivation, and work-life balance, and make more room for renewing activities. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When I worked out of the home, I was never good at work-life balance. Never good at it. I could never figure out how to balance my home life and my work life. I could never figure out how to leave work at work and come home and just enjoy being home. Like, that was something that was always a struggle for me. And when I really sit and think about it, I still think I struggle with that. Even though I'm home full time, I struggle with the work-life balance of feeling like I always need to be working. I always need to be cleaning, doing laundry, doing this, doing that. Like, I always need to be doing something, and I don't make the time for myself to sit down and work on something that I want to work on, to work on a hobby, to do an art project that I want to do, to read a book, or to write in my journal. Like, things like that, I don't prioritize. And I think it's because I still have not figured out work-life balance. And I do think that one of the keys to figuring out the work-life balance is going to be me structuring my days, getting myself back in a routine. Then he says for renewing activities, like all of those things, especially as moms and being home full time, like you need those things that really, my mom says that the things that fill your soul. You need those things that are creative for your brain, things that you enjoy doing. Those things are the things that really fill your soul and make you feel they really, I think, make you a better mom, and they make you a better homemaker when you kind of have the time to fill your cup a little bit. It really helps you be more effective at your job. So that is going to about wrap it up for today. Like I said, I'm speaking to you as somebody who is currently struggling with a lot of this stuff, but I thought that this would be maybe encouraging to talk about. Maybe somebody else out there is struggling like I am, and you needed to hear this, but I hope that it was encouraging and a blessing to you. Thank you for joining me. I do hope to get back in a good routine of uploading episodes. Thank you for being patient with me. I do hope that you'll subscribe and like this episode, maybe share it with a friend. Thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you next time.